The first keynote speaker of today is asking us a very straightforward question. Is this the best we can do? I really do hope there is place for improvement, but I will leave it to our first keynote speaker to tell us the truth. I'm happy to invite Mr. Boris Jokic, Principal Scientist from the Institute for Social Research in Zagreb, to please provide us with some good news. Please.
Hi there. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a nice time in Zagreb and Croatia, for all of you that are not from Croatia, and I'll be, as Isabella said, quite straightforward. I'll start with the following question to you. When you think about this world, many people will think of this world as the best of all worlds that have ever existed. However, some will say it's a miserable place. Many of you will say that we are more connected than ever because of this. Digital technology connect us all in various ways. However, even in this room, but especially in our societies, there is more lonely people than ever. This world, caught between, like golden age and a miserable failure, is what we are currently living. Regardless of that, however you see it, as an optimist or pessimist, you can say that all of us, but especially children and youth, are living in exciting and sensitive times. Out of all trends and megatrends and the things that have happened to us, alongside pandemic as a historical event, all of us are living in an age of large, rapid development of digital technologies, and in particular, development of artificial intelligence. So I know it's morning, and how many of you are not from Croatia? Can you just raise your hands? Okay, that's quite great. I'm not going to speak with words. I'm not going to show numbers yet. I'll show you some art. Art is from various cities around the world. It has been done by Italian artist, street artist, who's been painting murals all over the slums of megalopolis over the world. His work is named "Is This Modern Society?" However, I asked for the Croatian heritage or origin because you're going to hear some Croatian music. This is Croatian pop from the 80s. The band is called Denis and Denis, and the name of the song is "The Program of Your Computer." Okay, so look at the pictures and listen to some music.
Srce divlje lupa, želim. Ja ti brišem suze, vodim te u stan. Da polako pogled moj spušta se.
Think about it. Development of digital technology, and especially artificial intelligence, radically changes patterns of our lives, and also the patterns of the lives of children and youth. Everything changes. Their friendships change, the way they interact with people. Their social contact changes rapidly because of digital technology. Also the family relations. This is also a little bit of the trivia. This is a scene. This is not my family. I mean, like it could be, but we're a little bit different, just a little bit different. This is also a little bit of the trivia of this region. This is one of the best movies you could see from this region. It's called The Grave Diggers Are Running the Finishing Circle, and it's a Serbian comedy. And if you see that movie, please look at it. It's a dysfunctional family. Anyway, digital technology also changes the family relations. It also changes romantic relations, also sexuality, not only of youth in the high schools, but also at universities, also in this room. What especially is being changed is the sense of the privacy. When you are 16 and you go into your room, and there is suddenly, after you take a shower, 576 Snapchat messages, then you ask yourself, where is my private space? There's no privacy anymore. What is also changing is basically work, as you know it here, and what I'm dealing with is the change of education. All of this happens in the times of a large social polarization where people are divided on various streams, and also in time in decline in trust in all institutions, especially those connected with politics and especially those connected with educational systems. My name is Boris Jokic, and for you that don't know me, those from Croatia probably know me quite well. I'm a psychologist, I'm a scientist, I'm a head of the Institute for Social Research in Zagreb, but I'm mostly known, I'm also like an amateur DJ at a local radio station, but I'm mostly known in this country as a failed reformist. I tried to change the educational system, and I failed miserably. So, you know, like in a building where the rooms are called Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Ruđer Bošković, you know, it's a great privilege that a failed person is talking to you. Thank you, Isabella, and Algebra for inviting, and All Digital for inviting me. But who is talking to is basically a failure. However, it's a nice failure. You'll see. It's a kind of failing at the end. In the next minutes, I'll tell you about how I see if the present educational system, Croatian, but also others, can answer challenges of our times, the ones that I've showed before. Then I'll continue with the answer to the question, is the solution in digitalization of education? The third topic that I'll briefly discuss is what kind of system can address this change. And finally, I'll finish up with the idea and with the thought, if this could be done in our times, in these complex times of digitalization. I'll just start with a short history lesson. The great promise of education has been there throughout our time. Whenever there is a talk about a social ills, a social problem, a personal problem, politicians will come to the fore, to the public, and say education will solve it. However, this great promise of humankind has often underperformed. When you think about like the vision of education from 1900s, this is how they envisaged education in 2000. You see on top it says en l'an 2000. They thought that there will be some kind of like this guy here, this guy here. This is a bad pupil. You know, he's doing all the physical work. He's been like kind of pushing something. Okay, there's a teacher. He looks like you, like CEO. He's looking like CEO. He's pushing some books here, and there's some kids, and there's like some kind of wires going through to their heads. However, we know that in 2023, the education doesn't look like this. In the age of cybernetics, and in the 60s and 70s, this is how they envisaged education. They thought that education all through holograms. There's going to be a teacher there, and there's going to be screens here, there's going to be kids here, there's going to be flying things here, okay? In 2023, the education doesn't look like that. Education has often underperformed. However, technology has also often underperformed, even more. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, growing up here nearby in West Zagreb, I used to read a lot of sci-fi. Science fiction was my thing. I tried to envisage the world, the future of the world, how it will look. What I thought would be, and what I thought my life with 46 in 2023 would be completely different. I don't know if any other sci-fi fans are here. However, I was promised, like you, that in 2023 there's going to be many things. I thought that there's going to be jetpacks here. You know, there's not going to be a traffic jam in Zagreb. There's always a traffic jam in Zagreb. I was also promised there's going to be a robotic companion alongside with me doing this lecture. However, there is no robotic companion here. I was promised a dinner, a breakfast, and lunch in a pill form. Huh? Almost there. Almost for some of us. We were also promised the hydrogen-fueled automobiles. However, we are burning the fuel and the fossil fuels like never before. We were also promised the nuclear power levitating houses. There is energy crisis and wars because of the energy crisis. However, the biggest promise was to us that there's not going to be any more pain, there's not going to be any more illnesses. Half of you here are probably like suffering from allergies. Still, the medicine has not done enough in order to solve even the smallest problems. Education underperforms, technology underperforms. That brings me to my first topic, and this is, can present educational system answer the challenges of our time? And when you think about the model, and I'm going to speak just about the formal model of education, and when you think about this model, the model is characterized by several elements. First, it's single streams of the education. So it's like single stream, it's very linear. So you start with the kindergarten, you go to the primary school, lower secondary, upper secondary, then you either go to the work or you go to the tertiary education, then you go to the work. So it's a very linear system. It's also a system that is very intentional. So it demands intention on behalf of the learner. What it also demands, and to the large extent, is the very developed skills in self-regulation. So like kids from the age of 7, at least in Croatia, are expected to self-regulate themselves with regards to the learning. It is also in Croatia very discipline-oriented, very content-oriented. So it's only into the disciplines. You have, for example, in Croatian gymnasiums, so you learn a little bit about Croatia. In gymnasiums, which are prestige, kind of upper secondary education schools, you have 17 obligatory subjects, which rarely connect to each other. And young people are like, like in a madman's shirt when they enter it. They are in 17 obligatory streams, compulsory streams. This education and this model is also characterized by the summative assessment and also with a very rare monitoring in the process. Finally, it's characterized by the fixed location and set time. I know about you, here the things start at 9:35 or 9:40, the lectures. In Croatia, school starts at 8 o'clock. It has been starting like that for 80 years. The time period is 45 minutes. It has been like that for 45 years. The break between the first and second period, it has been like that forever. This model is also in Croatia characterized by facts, just by facts, a lot of facts. There's so many facts that when you are 16, you have this. Then you ask yourself, why do I need facts? I have all the facts here. Why do I need facts? This model doesn't stand any chance in the times of artificial intelligence. It's complete failure. It cannot answer any of these things. And then some will come, maybe some alongside here, probably a lot of you, will say, okay, is the solution in complete digitalization of education? This is another promise which is bound to underperform and also miserably underperform. When we asked students in our schools, pupils in our schools, and we did that over the time period of pandemic and after the pandemic, in the largest physical research that was done in European Union, where we asked every fourth student in Croatian schools who is 16-year-old, every fourth, and every 10th who is 10 years old and 13 years old. And we asked them several things. We asked them to compare the emergency remote education which they had and the traditional teaching and learning. And let me just give you an example. When, what's your name? Lucia. Where are you from? Okay, but where from Croatia? Koprivnica. Koprivnica is in north of Croatia. If you ask Lucia in 2020, if you ask her, Lucia, do you want an education which is done via mobiles, via laptops, via tablets, that you don't have to go to that fixed school at 8 o'clock in the morning, that you can get up at 7:45, okay, and your mom can bring you, like hot chocolate. Best education going in front of you. Do you want that school where you can be relaxed, or you can even get out of school? You don't even have to be present in that school. Or you want to have old-time school with like traditional Croatian wooden chair, a wooden table, blackboard with a chalk, because that's our school still. So do you want that school, or do you want a like digital school? It's emergency remote school, but do you want that school or the old school? And we asked them that in 2021 and 2022. Okay. We asked them when they were 16, when they were 13, and when they were 10. And we asked them, okay, that is the good, good teaching and learning and good school, is it more characteristic for a wooden chair or for a digital education? And when they were 16 and when they were 13 in Croatian schools, on only two things, they said that the online school is kind of like the thing is more characteristic for the online school. And these things are, we get a lot of tasks that we have to do to complete in a short time. That's more characteristic for the emergency online school. The second thing was following the classes is difficult for us. Online school. In all other aspects of what is, what we consider as a kind of good teaching and learning, for example, things that are being taught are clear to us. We can ask for the things. We are being monitored in a better way. It's more interesting what we learn. All of that in 2020 2021 and 2022 was more characteristic for a wooden school. So large promise of a like sudden change is not. The wooden school still rules in 2022. Okay, at least in Croatia. And then some will say, should we quit on digital? But that would be the even bigger mistake. If we quit on digital, we are missing a great opportunity, because digital can bring us a lot of things into that traditional school. For example, the digital can bring things such as adaptation of the technology to the developmental level of kids. It can also serve as a focus on motivation and attention, which are the core elements of the future education in 50-year time. It can also bring us to the much better situational learning, into much better ways of assessment, such as diagnostic assessment, adaptive assessment. Finally, it can give us a much better sense of psychological immersion. I don't know about you, if you come from Malta, if you come from Portugal, if you come from Switzerland, if you come from Belgium, okay? When we were kids, when I was studying about the ancient Greece, you know, I studied from a book. I write, you know, like it was just letters, and then try to envisage, or some pictures, and try to envisage it. With the digital technology, this kid can like go through the streets of Sparta. When he or she is learning, you know, like the blood system of a person, it can go with the digital technologies. It can stream down that system. Finally, the digital technology can be served also as one of the biggest tools of the present time, which is basically personalization of the educational experience. Okay, so finally, to come back to the main elements, so like what kind of system, if it's not completely digital, if it's not the present system, what kind of system can answer these challenges? And here I'll just give you an example of how I see it. Think about the system when you're Zrinka, age 7, or if Mary in UK, in Cardiff, age 13, and then, or like if you're 4 and Anne-Marie in Lyon, and you enter that system, and in this system, regardless of the subject, regardless of the level, okay, you're basically being confronted with the tasks which help you develop the problem-solving and decision-making skills. In that school, imagine the school where kids are being taught from the early age metacognitive skills, so they know how to learn. System in which they are being inspired to critically think, regardless of the subject. Or the system where they are, regardless of the way that what word and how they teach, are basically being forced to be creative and innovative. System where they communicate and cooperate. System where the languages are being taught, not just the language of speaking or writing, various program languages, but also the languages of art. And think about the system where the kids know how to deal with themselves and how to connect with the others. And how to steer themselves through their professional and educational careers. This type of system can answer these challenges. This type of system is something which could basically address all the elements of the fact-based education, of the lower motivation, apathy of the kids in many European countries. In this type of system, digital technology and artificial intelligence is a support, not a threat. In this system, human relation becomes more important than ever. In these systems, where the AI and digital help, basically human-human interaction, is even more important than in the present school. This school is also multidimensional and multidisciplinary in the ways of teaching and learning, and also less dependent on the location and time. In this school, assessment and monitoring is different than in the present school. It focuses on the more complex tasks. It focuses on the element of the real-life context, of the adaptive testing and assessment, according to the present kind of levels of the teachers. And that brings me to the final element. How can we instigate this change in very complex times? My view, and that's why I failed, but I think it's going to be like that. What we need is basically a complete rethinking of how we instigate and conduct changes, innovations, and reforms in school. Basically, my point is the and elites, such as academic elites that are around this place, in this room, will not be the main actors of the future reform processes in education. Basically, the reason for that is the declining trust in all of the authorities, especially in politicians, in all European contexts. What these changes and reforms and innovations need is a basically complete democratization of the educational change processes, basically involving teachers, heads of schools, NGOs, unions, kids, pupils, in the way of changing education. This is, of course, the harder than the like set of politicians and set of the elite, chosen elite, dictating what's needed in school. And when you think about it, many people here will say, no way, Boris, no way. Like this is like this is clear utopia, what you're speaking about. And then your utopia is my dystopia, you will say. Okay. And in present time, dystopia is very much present in our lives. However, in this region where you are now currently, dystopia was always our thing. We really like dystopia. Like we get carried by the utopia, but dystopia is our thing. We are masters of dystopia. Like MODs. We are MODs. But however, like this kind of positive view of education and change in education, alongside the digital change, is something which can really be an answer to many things. And like many will say, okay, the humankind and especially European Union is not at the stage that it can do this. Many countries cannot do this. Like extreme right on the rise, like many ideological culture wars, as I said, polarization, etc. You cannot do the like systemic change of education. And many of you are right. Looking back at the humankind, we are possible and we are doing this. This is the biggest suffering in the 20th century, the First World War. Okay, for the reasons which are inexplicable to many, we are managing to do this in cycles. Like make many people lose their jobs, also in education. We were, as a humankind, possible of doing this. Like killing people just because of their religion, race, sexual orientation, ethnicity. At the end of the Second World War, as a humankind, we were just to end the war, for the new war to start in 10 or 20 years. All of that is humankind. However, at the same time, humankind is also this. In some small village, 230 kilometers from here, there was a guy there who managed to give a light to the world. His name was Nikola Tesla. In a small village, without much education. As a humankind, we were possible to do this, which is basically connect Ghent with Calgary, with Caracas, with Split, which is down in Dalmatia, with Nairobi, and Phnom Penh, just because of the development of microtechnology, connectivity, and all of that. As a humankind, we were able to do this, which is eradicate a lot of sickness and illnesses, deaths of young people, alongside other older people, with, for example, vaccination and immunization. However, in my view, the biggest kind of achievement of humankind has been education. With the education, we can really change things, and even though it underperforms at times, it still is the main power of the humankind to change things. In my view, the answer to all of the questions that I posed at the beginning is the interaction of the radical educational change and further development of digital technology. Not one against the other, but alongside the radical change in education and further development. Today is a beautiful Wednesday in Zagreb. And although it doesn't seem like that, regardless if you are from Valletta, regardless if you are from Lisbon, or if you are from Florence. These days there is a crossroad that all streets lead to. These streets are named, and you can see them around yourself. And they don't have the brand names like the Apple CEO or the Microsoft CEO and all of that. These streets are named fear. People are afraid. Distrust. They don't trust each other. There is also a street to that intersection, which is called selfishness. And then especially with regards to the economy these days, greed. People are greedy, they just want money. All these lead to that place, that intersection, is a very difficult place to move from. From that place you cannot move. However, there's another one. Currently, maybe you don't see it. Currently, like maybe you're, currently maybe it's like invisible because you're looking at screens. Currently, it's invisible because you don't trust any change. This intersection and this crossroad has the streets of the following name, which is a progress, as a kind of main element which kind of drives the humankind forward, which is openness, to welcome others with open hands, regardless of who they are, which is courage to change despite the limitations and despite the kind of barriers that are in front of us, which is inclusion, to have those who are also not, like the imaginary average of our time, which is also something which is lacking everywhere in Europe, which is solidarity. That crossroad is a great crossroad. Some strange people live and work there, and they understand, I hope they understand, that the education needs to change the drum. It needs to change the rhythm. Because if it goes down the rhythm of the, like past times, and if it goes down the rhythm, which is basically old times or just the new times without kind of wooden chair and wooden blackboard, that will be a very difficult place to change. I hope they feel and understand the drumming beat of the educational change. And this is it. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Boris. You have got us even a bit emotional, not just educational, so thank you. And if you could just stay for a few seconds, since we probably have some questions, and before we find the first person to pose one, I would ask a question. Who would want to be a Boris Jokic style failure in life?
You don't want to be that. Especially not in Croatia.
Are there any questions? No? Okay, Boris. Yes, there one. Sorry, there's two. We have a microphone here. Sorry.
Thank you for your presentation. Actually, I was about how we can change the way to do school without the support of institutions and politics and so the vertical organization, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll just give you, I'll try to answer in 2 minutes, just to know. Okay, so when I said I try to do educational reform, not just me, in the period between 2014 and 2016, I led the largest educational reform in Croatia. And I did it in a democratic way with okay. I invited from every school in the smallest village. I gave them the opportunity to participate in the change of the education. And that led to a kind of large wave of kind of democratic processes where the power elements kind of broke immediately. That became kind of almost a social movement, which became a threat to the politics. My view from the beginning was that the politics is an important thing. The politicians, I mean, they make all the decisions. However, if they decide to take the expert decision instead of someone who is a biologist of what is being taught in biology or of what is being taught in history, like if they take it just from their power position, that's not going to work well in 2023 or 2033. So basically, instead of imposing the power from the politics, the politics, like the expertise, and then trying to work together in democratic way. When I said there was 1,000 people working alongside, like me and my colleagues, we did that for 2 years. Okay, and then at one point we were stopped by the politics because this became a threat, and not just the educational threat; it became a social threat. What came afterward, and I mean that's a nice lesson to you, was one of the biggest demonstrations in Croatian history. In the main square in Zagreb, there was 50,000 people protesting for the reform. Also in other towns, led to the fall of the government at that time. Okay, what I'm saying is basically democratic changes which include people who are practicing education are also make these efforts more viable okay, more resistant, and they make them more. However, in my view, if you use the term reform or change, you want to change the power structures. You want to give the power to the people and the people who are working in schools.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Hello. Well, thank you for your somehow utopian exploration of the future, but you propose a kind of a radical redesign of the model of education, where, if I hear you well, you suggest that anyone could learn from anyone at any time using digital technology, etc. What is the place for schools and institutions here? Could almost suggest that, well, why do we need schools anymore?
No, that's not my. Thank you for the compliment for the utopia. That's a compliment for me. But I'm not suggesting what you are saying. I'm suggesting quite contrary. I think that schools are going to have still a place. I think that the kind of transfer of knowledge and skills, and especially acquisition of the attitudes and the values, is basically mainly done in a human-human interaction. Okay, and in that school, the human-human interaction, so like the teacher to the student, will be the main kind of element of the transfer. So in my view, the school still exists, and it exists even more importantly than before. And in that school, because of the, abundance of the facts and abundance of the information around, that things become even more important. And I'll give you an example of those. For example, I see your time, and not even that, like in some systems you already have it, you would have like the, special devoted time, for example, to the development of the grit of this, as I said, also like resistance, even like some positive emotional states like happiness. And for these things, the information becomes secondary. However, you need a human interaction for that. And then in those schools of the future, how I envisage them, human technology interaction, which is also important, which is a crucial kind of thing, becomes one of the main pillars of that school. But the technology does not rule over the school.
Thank you, Boris. You have many questions. I will ask. I will, unfortunately could take only one because we have someone waiting for us remotely and we're short on time. So you can, of course, ask Boris while still here. Next 5 minutes.
Next 5 minutes.
Please stay so that everyone can ask you a short question. But one more here now. Sorry, we have it already there. Yeah, please. So much to hear from Boris, but you
thank you for the presentation and very inspiring. I'm not sure schools will be the same, and I'm not sure if you think of AI 10 years ago, we were all saying it cannot show empathy, it cannot be creative. Now the creativity behind these systems is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And the way these systems are developed now, they edit their own code, they self-learn. So I'm not sure how much we will need schools the way are described in the earlier comment, and the future that things are going, given the power these systems are getting. So the need for more regulation and more ethics behind all this probably is very important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Like the issue of artificial intelligence is not only the issue of technology; it's mainly the ethical issue, and when we need to think about it. However, I'll be a little bit skeptical about it. We have many revolutionary technologies in the past, like I tried to show, which have underperformed their kind of future say, and then especially in education. That's why I'm using this example of the wooden chair. It's still a wooden chair. Regardless of having the tablets, having the digital technology, internet for like I don't know how much. Basically, if you speak about psychologically, in terms of development of the young person, you need a human interaction. Without it, I don't think that we will ever be without it. And also another thing, in times of talk about singularity, of the AGI and all of that, the places where this has been kind of developed, if you think about San Francisco, if you think about Seattle, if you think about Portland, if you think about London, okay. Beside the places where the things have developed, you have a complete social breakdown. So basically, regardless of the technological development, there's like a large social problems that we still haven't, like solved. So you have like opioid crisis in the San Francisco alongside like OpenAI headquarters. What I'm saying is basically, like we can all be like I am today, a little bit futurologist, just in like, like seeing upfront. But our past tells us that, like regardless of the technological development, there's some core social and personal elements that we haven't solved yet. And without solving them, the complete potential of technology such as AI is basically unreachable. It's unreachable. Or it will be reachable to only few, which is even worse.
Okay. Thank you, Boris. Applaud for Boris once more. Thank you. Our next keynote speaker. Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
do.
Thanks a lot.
Please do.